Welcome to Bridging Success, the podcast where top B2B CEOs and executives share their insights, challenges, and game-changing strategies that drive innovation and business growth. I'm your host, Bo Jakins, founder and CEO of BridgeNet Technology Consultants, where each episode we spotlight visionary leaders shaping the future, diving into critical decisions, leadership philosophies, and breakthrough moments that have propelled them to success. On this episode, I'm joined by Doug Carpenter, a certified public accountant and chartered financial analyst. He has owned and operated comprehensive accounting solutions for 7 years, and the firm has a high-end specialty in providing tax-saving strategies to small businesses. Doug, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Can you start off by just maybe sharing a little bit of the journey that led you to establish comprehensive accounting solutions and what you're most proud of in your career so far?
Absolutely. I have a very diverse background. I started in accounting. I actually started in finance. I was the youngest broker in the country at one time. I was 17 years old, got my broker's license. Didn't like brokerage. It's a lot of selling and a lot of mis-selling, and that really wasn't what I wanted to do. So I went into accounting, did audit for a couple of years, worked for a big top 4 accounting firm, left them for a CFO role, did various consulting after that. I worked for a company for 12 years as their chief financial officer. It was a New York Stock Exchange company. That was very good. We grew that company. It was a company called Crosstex. It was a division of Cantel Medical. When I joined the company, they were doing about $36 million in sales, making $3 million a year. When I left, we were doing about $160 million in sales, making $3 million a month. So there was a lot of growth and a lot of things that we did that helped to grow that company a lot. They moved their operations. I decided I did not want to move to Rochester from Long Island, New York. Took a buyout and bought this firm, which is Comprehensive Accounting Solutions. And we've been growing this firm since and helping our clients expand. When I took over the firm, they didn't do tax. Now we do very comprehensive tax and tax strategies. A lot of technology was not being utilized. We've leveraged technology for our clients. And I think we've got a very efficient, good operation.
That's great. I'm a tech guy at heart, so I got to jump right into the technology questions. You mentioned that you love to automate every repetitive function that has a proper solution. Can you give us some examples that stand out to you that have helped propel the business forward when it comes to automation and using technology to do that?
I'll tell you, yeah, one of many, and I could really go into a lot of examples. One of many might be invoice processing. We do a lot of restaurants, we do a lot of hotels and restaurants, everything, and they have one thing a lot of, and that's invoices. They buy all kinds of things, particularly restaurants. They have more invoices in a small restaurant than we used to have in our $160 million company. And the old way, and we're going back, when I say ancient times, it's maybe 5 or 7 years ago, people would manually put in those invoices, and that's not how it's really done anymore. It's scanned in. And the question is, what level of technology do you want to do to scan them in? There's solutions like, say, bill.com, where it's very simple. It'll take an invoice, it'll take the total and the amount, the time due. Does a very good job of organizing it. You can go a level beyond that to other companies, for restaurants in particular, just as an example. Companies called Margin Edge or Craftable, Extra Chef. What these companies do is they go line by line on the invoice and they record exactly what is being purchased. So it's eggs, it's milk, it's cheese, it's whatever it is, and the quantities and the price. What it allows you to do is track the changes in price of these different items, where you're getting your better prices from, and see all of this as data. Now, if you want to spend the time and analyze, a lot of people don't have the time to do that, but we as accountants do. That's what we're able to do, is tell you exactly how much your cost goes up. I like to think businesses are run more mathematically than anything else. It's really a scientific process. If your costs go up X dollars, then your prices on your menu should go up X dollars. And we can figure that exactly that. Now we'll leverage that with your POS system, your sales system, and see what you're selling. And so we'll tell you, okay, if you're a pizza place, you need to raise a slice 25 cents in order to offset. We know how many slices of pizzas you sold. We can put that in the data, tell you if you raise it up 25 cents and all things stay the same, you'll get this much more money. That will cover the cost of the cheese that has risen, so on and so forth. So there's really a very scientific way of running these companies from a numerical standpoint.
I'm sometimes in awe of how you guys can go through the minutia of every number on a P&L or some other statement in a business. So yeah, that's great. I love how tying in the purchases by automating receipt scanning to the POS and seeing where those monies are going can help. That's great.
When I worked in manufacturing, I could tell you who was running the machine based on the numbers.
I love it. But pull out your crystal ball for me and tell me what some areas where you see comprehensive accounting solutions focusing in on growth or innovation in the coming years.
We've looked a lot at AI and the solutions that are coming. I think AI is a great tool, but overhyped a little bit. I don't think it's going to replace everything, but it's going to replace a lot of basic things. It'll be more like a tool, I think, like your iPhone. It didn't replace you or your family, but certainly connected things and provides a lot of information, a lot of things. It becomes really something that you use a lot. And I think we're looking in those kind of innovative solutions. There's some things that can be done. We've used generative AI to solve certain problems in general ledgers. Big thing that you get in a general ledger is matching. So you get something that comes in, let's say, and I'll give you the most basic example. You get 3 invoices and someone pays all 3 with 1 check. But they don't tell you that. Clients are terrible at this. They don't tell you that. They just pay it, and we have to figure out what that is. We have programs in AI that will go through all the checks you've written and look at all the combinations and come up with, hey, looks like this one paid these 3 out of this whole field of information that we have. It's one example of where we're starting to leverage on that type of thing. Now, to sort through that manually is relatively impossible. You could be looking at hundreds of numbers and trying to figure out which 3 match that total. That could be extreme, and then do it over and over. But we've got programs now that, again, we built through generative AI that can do that. There's one way of cutting down time. Reconciliations are a key, but it's still not going to tell you 100%, what something is. If an owner takes money out of a business, he's got to tell you that. You're going to see, you may know his name, that's fine. They don't always do that. Sometimes they're buying a car personally. I use it's my money, I can do that. Got to tell us that. You're not buying it for the business, you're buying it for yourself. It's personal distribution.
So you brought up an interesting topic. What's your take on trusting the numbers that AI produces? Do you trust the numbers yet? How do you get yourself to feel better about trusting the numbers right now?
Generally, we don't. There's something that I teach all the junior accounts to come in is to question everything. This is something that someone just out of school doesn't do. They run something through QuickBooks or Netscape or a NetSuite, and they look at that and they want to send it out. They look at it and go, hold on a second. You got to look at these numbers. You got to look at your balance sheet. You got to look at your P&L. Suddenly a profit appears out of nowhere. I want to know why. You need to understand your variances. So one of the things we do right away with our accountants is to look at variance analysis. So I had to do this for a public company when we did this back when I was with Prostex. We had to explain every difference that was 0.2% off or more. That comes down to, in millions of dollars, in $13 or $15 million in sales a month. That's a $20,000 difference that you're looking for. Needle in a haystack. And believe it or not, you can do it. You have to understand your numbers. You have to know where things are coming from, but it can be done. And what you're looking at are your variances, how everything changes over time, what you expected. If you have a budget, which is very important for businesses to have, even small ones, is to look at those differences and explain why. So if your sales are down or less than you expected, sales are something you really can't control directly, but you want to ask what's influencing those sales. Are suddenly customers doing something different? Was there a big rainstorm and nobody came into your store? Understand why these things are occurring. And that's very important. Generally, business owners don't have the time to look at that. We kind of force them to do that at least quarterly. And it is very beneficial. It helps them understand the business and understand what the trends are.
Going back to saying that you tell all your junior accountants that you got to check the numbers, you got to dig into the details. It reminds me of a study that they just did about writing essays with AI. The people that used AI to write their essays couldn't tell you a thing about it.
And that's the shame of it. And I've done calculations. I like to fool around. I'm an amateur astronomer, and I like to fool around with numbers. And I've asked AI for certain calculations. I won't even get into what they are. But when it comes back with an answer, it has 3 different answers. They don't match each other. And 2 of the 3 are absolutely wrong. It's good, but what the problem is, it's not actually what I've discovered. One of the real shortcomings of AI is it's not calculating. It's reaching out and grabbing someone else's calculation and regurgitating it. It's not doing a physical calculation that I can see. So if the information it's pulling from is misunderstood, it's going to give you a wrong answer.
I loved how you talked about the different tools you were using to automate things earlier. And math hasn't changed in a very long time, but if you look at the accounting industry as a whole, are there any trends that you're observing right now that you think might have a significant impact outside of AI on
I
business and your clients?
I have very deep thoughts on that, and that is the problem. And I have seen a tremendous deterioration in the quality of accounting work. Unfortunately, non-accountants don't understand what that means because they're not in the details, but I am. I go in and I look and I see, and I can tell you the age of the person who did the books the last time. I can tell you where they are. And it's basically an over 40 or not. And the problem is the people that have come out in accounting generally have used computers too much to learn what it actually means. And that is the biggest thing that I find. When I hire someone new, it takes me 2 years to untrain them and retrain them to really understand what they're looking at, to understand how everything ties together. And the biggest shortcoming I'm seeing is, and if anybody's just a little bit into accounting, is you have a P&L and a balance sheet. Usually the P&L comes out in a certain way, and a new accountant or someone that really doesn't know what they're doing stops there. Here's your P&L, it looks good, that's it. It's really the balance sheet that you got to be looking at. I have clients, they won't even ask me for the balance sheet. But that's where all the secrets are hidden. That's where it stays. That's where it's permanent. And it's very important that you get that right. One can't be right without the other. And the new accountants that I see do not grasp that.
Reminds me of me giving my kids a hard time because they let them use a calculator on every math course they took. And I said, y'all have to learn how to put pencil to paper and figure it out in your brain and not use a calculator. Here, let me show you. And I would race them on the calculator, but it didn't do me much good because they still like to have their calculator. Now they carry one around in their pocket on their phone all the time. It doesn't help any, but I agree.
Now it's accounting. Everybody does accounting with the books. They put in an entry and they're just putting it in. They don't know what it's doing.
They copied a formula that they liked out of an Excel spreadsheet formula and just reuse it over and over again without knowing what it does.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, good points. I had another thought that escaped me, but I'll come back to it when I think about it. Any new services or technology that you're using at Comprehensive Accounting Solutions that are helping you better serve your clients? What's setting you apart from your competition these days?
The latest thing is that a lot of the accounting software that we use is getting smarter and more sophisticated. There are innovations, there's things that we have to stay on top of. Usually when something is rolled out, it's something that we like to become more familiar with and see what the new features are. It's incremental, it's small at a time. Every 6 months or so, there's something new coming out in the software we use. And that being said, also is keeping on top of the latest software that's out there entirely. There's systems and things that you can do that you couldn't do 5 years ago. And that's something that we always have to stay on top of in terms of having the best solution is really what our goal is. Makes us more efficient, gives us more capabilities. As far as what we do, though, one of the things that's always changing, and I'll say is it really doesn't have that much to do with technology, but it's the tax codes. They just recently changed again. And understanding them, looking at them. There are a lot of programs out there that will help you with the understanding of tax codes. And to be quite honest with you, it still takes a human touch. It's not, you can pay a lot of money, and we have tested these out. It's a lot of canned solution, generic solution. There's nothing like one-on-one. That's another thing, is dealing with clients. You can only go so far with technology. It takes a call like this, going through their financials and talking with them directly about their business. Sometimes what we talk about has nothing to do with accounting. It just has to do with business and how they're running their business. My favorite question to ask a business owner is, what are you going to do different next quarter that you didn't do this quarter? And that gives you a lot of insight. And they don't have to answer it for me, but I just want them to think about it.
Yeah, so let's finish it up, touch on your thoughts on budgeting. You mentioned that budgeting is key. Talk to me about that.
I am a fanatic when it comes to budgeting. I love budgeting because you're predicting the future, and I can get pretty good with it. I can get pretty close to tell you what your future is going to look like. What's very important about budgeting, there's two aspects to it. One is putting the numbers together and understanding where you are, but it's understanding the variances that's very important. There's two as the first aspect I'm covering is understanding the variances. So if you plan to have certain things happen and something different happens, why did that difference happen? What was different from your plan? And there's really three top areas you want to focus on. It's sales, it's cost of sales, and it's payroll. Those are your three main ones. There's others, there's some things, there's rent, there's other things in there, but most of those are fairly predictable. But those are the three things that are going to make a big difference. Somebody quits, someone else, you have to replace them, you have to hire new people. These are all things that you understand as you go. That's the one aspect of a budget. The second, and just as important, and this is where a lot of people miss, is how you put the budget together. Depending on the size of your company, if you're a one-man shop, it's not a big deal. But if you're a big public company like we were, you have managers and you have buy-in from those managers and you get input from those managers. And during the year, what you're going to do as you go into budget season, it was a 2-month season, you're asking your salespeople, you're asking your managers, what are you doing? How do you intend to sell? Salesperson comes in, the first thing you're going to say is, I'm going to grow sales 20% next year. I'm going to say, okay, how? And they're going to give you this deer in the headlights stare of, it's just, no, okay, let's put you down for 0 and work on it from there. And tell me what you're going to do. And then they start to think about it. They say, maybe I should attend this convention. Okay, did we budget for that? Let's put in some money for that convention. And let's put in this. Let's anticipate the sales. That's just one aspect of it. Managers, you're going to purchase. You're going to do any better this year? You're going to purchase things cheaper? How do you intend to do that? What do you intend to, what systems are you going to use? Purchase order, buy from the same vendor you bought for the last 10 years. I get it. They're reliable. Their product is good. Maybe we should look at something else. Maybe we can negotiate a better price. These are the things that come out when you're talking about a budget. And they're good discussions.
Budgeting, goals, they all tie in together. If you set somebody to a plan and execute the plan with a vision in mind, that's good stuff.
We had a restaurant manager that the owner had said they decided that if they could lower costs by 2%, their cost of purchases, you get a $10,000 bonus at the end of the year. You tie them to their goals. They lowered it by 4%. And the owner, she did the right thing. She gave him a $20,000 bonus.
That's great. That's good. Yep. Well, Doug, I appreciate the time today. For listeners who are inspired by your journey that want to learn more, where do they go to? Where can they turn to reach out and find Doug?
They can find me at solutionsbychs.com. That's solutions with an S, BY and CHS, charliehenrysamuel.com. That's our website. You can check out what we do. We have a specialty in a lot of different areas, hospitality being one of them, if that happens to be your business, but we do everything. We do tax as well. Feel free to reach out, send me an email, dougc@solutionsbychs.com, and I'll be happy to respond and see what we can do for you.
Great. Leave them with one piece of advice that you want them to take away that would have a meaningful impact with them.
I'll go back to what I already said, and that is, and when you're running your business at the end of the quarter, I want you to ask yourself a question. What are you going to do different next quarter that you didn't do this quarter?
Great. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.